Hey there folks, Rel here. In the background you'll see some footage from PlanetSide 2 as I share some thoughts on better gaming. Today we're going to be talking about anger and rage quitting and how changing your perspective makes a big impact. I actually had received this question from a subscriber and I was going to cover it in a community call, but I ended up somehow losing the message or accidentally deleting it or whatever. So I apologize that I can't remember the subscriber's name, but basically this person said that he was having trouble with getting angry. He'd frequently rage quit and he'd ask me how I always seem to stay calm. Now the first thing that I should probably point out is that I haven't always been this way. I'd be lying if I said that I've never logged off in any game out of rage, and I think that we all have and we still do on occasion, but at the same time I'm calm or mellow or easygoing or however you want to think of it because I realize that it's just a game. And make no mistake, I'm not talking about the phrase, "it's just a game." That's something you say to other people when they're angry at you for wasting their time. So if you're playing Dota with 4 other teammates and you are just god-awful and you lose the game for your team, the phrase, "it's just a game," is something that comes out to absolve yourself of guilt or responsibility. It's a really douchey, trollish thing to say, but in the end, it is just a game. The people, though, aren't angry because they lost a game. They're angry because you just wasted 30 minutes to an hour of their life for seemingly no reward. This is also part of the problem, though. It's so hard to just enjoy the time we have and our current state of being because we're usually focused on an end goal. PlanetSide 2, for example, can be extremely frustrating because of this. If I'm flying around in my scythe and I die, then I can't pull another one for, forever amount of minutes. Maybe I quit, or I log on to another character, or I quit out and I come back later. Why? Because, as Louis C.K. puts it, that's not my favorite thing. I don't want to be a ground pounder right now. I want to fly. Or if you're dying over and over and over, or if you die in a way that you think is unfair or unjust, you might rage, you might log out, you might come back later because you feel slighted, so you get angry. In fact, when you break anger down, you're looking at 3 components, at least according to an article from pbs.org, and that cites sources from the American Psychological Association. There's a link in the description if you're incredibly interested. But the first component in anger is the physical reaction, so adrenaline, blood pressure, muscles tensing, basic fight or flight responses. The second component is how we experience anger cognitively. How much do we think about what's making us angry, the degree of which we feel we are being treated unfairly, etc., etc. The third component is the expression of anger. So you're turning red, or you're yelling, or you're shutting down, or you're destroying defenseless inanimate objects. I don't think that these components have any particular order, but the second part is the most important one in my personal opinion. I have a friend who literally lets the smallest injustice ruin his entire day, whether it be a car swerving in front of him by mistake, or if you happen to give him a taste of some of the same condescending trash talk that he oftentimes serves up. He's the type of person who just can't let things go. And because of this, you almost have to babysit his emotions. You're tiptoeing through a minefield of psychological triggers, and I wouldn't just cut him off as a friend because he's a good guy, he just has annoying anger management issues. And I'm not unsympathetic to this. Some people literally have mental or chemical imbalances that make them this way, but other people just need to grow up a little bit, they need to get a little bit older, and they need to start looking at the bigger picture. When I was very young, how I expressed anger throughout my childhood was, crying or with fist fights. And I had a little brother and we fought a whole lot. Later on in life, think maybe teenage years and such, I was pretty scrawny. So fist fighting was not exactly the smartest idea for me, so I learned to be extremely condescending and verbally abusive, a sharp tongue. Words were a nastier and more effective way for me to vent that anger. Fast forward 10 years or so, basically to where I am now. Come to find out, you can temper your own triggers and decide what makes you angry. When you look at life, you can choose to have a reaction as an individual, or you can choose to be an observer of what is going on around you. It's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing, it's just a thing. In a comment section, or better yet, in-game over yell chat is a pretty good example. You'll always have one guy that is trying to exert his internet authority, which is a fun oxymoron, I know. But they'll say something like, Rel sucks, or Rel is a scrub, or, whatever makes them feel good about themselves. I could feel slighted, I could feel like I have to prove myself, I could get upset, but I don't. Because the perception of being a skilled player is not something that I care about portraying. And if someone has that sort of mental construct about me, they really don't know who I am or what I'm about, and they're just doing something that they think they need to do. And for me, even as recent as maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I did care. Maybe not with Rel, but with other characters in gaming that I've had in the past. I always wanted to be the best at whatever it is I was playing, and I'd fiercely defend my actions and justify how good I was as a player. And whether or not this was actually the case is really besides the point. The point is that something that was once a mental trigger for anger has been tempered, forged into just being another thing. I've traded it for the mentality that you can just sit back and you can observe the actions of others, analyze them, and gain perspective. But in the end, it shouldn't bother you. Imagine that your life is a river, and you're in a kayak and you're just cruising along, right? Sometimes the river is difficult to navigate and takes a concentrated effort, and other times the river is calm and you just float gently downstream. You're just enjoying the sights and the sounds around you. Now imagine that as you're floating down this river in your little kayak, you see a rock ahead. Not a massive one, but something that you need to navigate around. This rock can be somebody else's hatred, or their ignorance, or their idiocy. And if you see the rock coming, you can probably avoid it. And even if it sneaks up on you, you're just going to brush up against it. If you get stuck, you can just take the paddle and you can gently push yourself away and continue on downstream. And this is an interesting little metaphor to entertain. No matter what happens in your life, you can predict, observe, and navigate it as long as you keep things in perspective. Now that's not to say that it's easy. It's absolutely not. It's a constant practice that you become better at over time, and it goes back to the being graceful thing which we talked about a while ago. Each person has their triggers, things that could make you angry. They have that rock that they aren't expecting, but always happen to slam into. But even then, after experiencing that emotion, that short snap of rage, how long you decide to be angry is really up to you. I'm sure there have been times in your life where you and another person have just argued and argued to the point where you don't actually remember what got you started in the first place. Or maybe you've cried and cried until you just suddenly stopped crying, like nothing happened at all. That is perfectly fine. We need to have those emotional reactions, and letting them run their course is something that we're sort of trained to do, and it comes naturally. We need a way to vent when we do get angry. That said though, the next time you find yourself either in a fit of rage or even after the fact, go ahead and ask yourself what made you angry and why it mattered. Whether you're playing a game or you're cruising down the freeway or just hate everything around you, usually you can look back and you can say, well, that probably wasn't as big of a deal as it could have been. And just practicing that greater perspective, knowing that 5 minutes from now, the thing that makes you want to rage in the comments section probably won't matter. Life keeps going, just like the river, and learning to enjoy the ride and not get frustrated by the bumps along the way, that could make you a better player and a better person. If this video has been interesting, helpful, or entertaining, please feel free to like, subscribe, tell your friends about the channel, and if you have any additional thoughts or techniques that you use to calm yourself down, feel free to share those in the comment section down below so others can benefit. Thanks very much, folks. We're all signing off.
I got the shot, don't block me.